is your opinion?
It's a fact.
That's one of my favorites. I'm Joe Messina, your host. You're listening to The Real Side on GCN Live. Always a pleasure to have you with me. 855-REAL-JOE, 855-732-5563. Look, David Fischer joins us as he always does. And, you know, the thing, I only bring people on that I really trust, that I really believe in. And I got to tell you something. He's been right. He's helped a lot of our listeners in the past. Give him you really should check this out. Take a listen and find out what you should be doing with your money. David Fischer joins us, I'll call him. He doesn't call him. I'll call him my financial expert. I always love when he's on with me, and he gives us such clear insight as to what's going on in the markets, what's going on with your money, and how to keep more of your money in your pocket. David, thanks so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me. Hey, you always ask me a lot of questions. I got to ask you one to catch you off guard a little bit.
Oh.
What's this going on with the California? They want to break up into 3 states. What's your take on that?
God bless them. No, I think what it is there's such. It really is like 3 different universes. Actually, it's like 6 different universes. But depending on what part of the state you're in, you really do think you're in a different country because it's totally different in north of Sacramento. It's a totally different world. It's different in the center of the state. And different in Southern California. But here's my fear, give you something to chew on and what have you is, think about this.
I think you're going to say the same fear that I have. I hope you're going to say this.
Well, a couple of things.
My fear.
One is we add more senators. You're
exactly right. And they're all so liberal.
Yeah. I mean, God forbid it might get worse at the federal level. It might be better in these little areas of the state, but man, you're adding more. I don't know. It's scary. How's that?
So my last question, and we'll move on to what you want to ask me questions about. So where's the California debt going to go? How are they going to break that up?
Oh, God. You know what? There's the next argument. And I think the people who brought it or bringing this didn't really think it all the way through. I mean,
I heard an interview today. I completely concur. It was like, yeah, they're talking about all the benefits, but what about who's going to fund the bills, our financial obligations? Where's the debt going to go? They didn't even mention that. That's the biggest problem we're facing. California has faced and our country faces. But anyway, enough about California. Ask away. What do you want to learn today?
Okay. Well, I want to learn about the markets. They're always very. I mean, when you're not familiar with them, and all you wake up in the morning, you hear, "Oh my God, we've dropped 300 points, or we've done this, we've done." There were calm at the beginning of the week, and then yesterday stocks went down and gold went up. And today stocks are flat, gold is up, and enlighten us, please.
Well, first of all, I hate to look at short-term gyrations in the market, but there was something that caused it. The Fed came out yesterday. They talked. And they made an announcement, and they raised the Fed lending rate 1/4 point again. So this is the 7th after they've been doing rate hikes. This is the 7th. There's 2 more projected this year. When that happened, you can look at intraday trading charts. Stocks went down, gold shot up, which confirmed. When I say shot up, I'm not saying we had this incredible gain. It went up $5-6. It's up again today. Stocks were higher today. Now they're down today, as we're talking right now. So there's uncertainty. Interest rates going up is not good for businesses, and the Fed is trying to normalize the rates to get to a normal rate, and that affects stocks. And usually says we're going to have trying to tame inflation, which inflationary environments are good for gold. So that's what's going on.
Wow. And by the Fed raising the rates, now, it tells us something, but you've been talking for years now where the Fed is going with this. Let's talk a little bit about them raising the rates, and they're unwinding their balance sheet. Again, what does this bring to us? What does this mean to us?
Well, they're pulling away. There's been a party, free money or cheap money at 1/4 point for almost a decade. They created all this money through quantitative easing, and they injected it in the system, and it was cheap. And so, when you're given money, it's like, hey, it's a party. When the money goes away, and we're gonna sell the money into the market in the form of treasuries, it has the negative effect. And so, ironically, since we're talking about this, and this is the Fed unwinding their balance sheet, they're on course for unwinding it. That's why you're seeing this market volatility this year. It's because of the Fed. It's not tariffs, although tariffs get tied to it. And there is some, problems with tariffs. And when the EU, when Britain wants to break away through Brexit and the EU, when that completely happens, you'll see some market volatility. You'll see some of that. But most of this is on the backdrop of the Fed unwinding or selling treasuries and creating a surplus, a gluttony of treasuries by the Treasury. And so this creates another problem, which is going to cause a bubble to burst next year or the year after. But here's the thing, Joe. What happened last night while we were sleeping, the European ECB, European Central Bank, Mario Draghi, also are following now in the footsteps of the Fed. They're forecasting inflation. They gave a big surprise that they said that the GDP for 2018 is falling from 2.4% to 2.1%. To put in perspective, the U.S. is at 3.1%. But they're also going to stop buying their bonds, just like the Fed stopped buying treasuries. They're going to follow in the same footsteps that the Fed is doing. And they are going to start raising rates probably sometime after the summer of 2019. So they're going to get to normalize rates too. This is going to have a negative effect on the global economy. So, we're going to have to start to see. That's why gold is up today, because this announcement came during open markets while the European markets were open while we were sleeping. And, this is a reflection of and confirming everything I've been saying, what's going to happen a couple years from now when the ECB jumps in full with both feet. It's going to cause global problems because we have a huge debt structure on central banks, just what the Fed did in creating all this money. ECB did it also. Now they have to go the reverse opposite direction. They're just about a year and a half to 2 years behind the Fed.
It's always perfect timing when he comes back in the next segment. You really have to have a solid understanding of what's going on in the markets and know what to do with your money. You heard me ask him, or you've heard me ask him in the past. How does the normal doesn't sound right, but how does the normal 9-to-5er? How does the guy just trying to work his job know what to do with his money? Know how to break it up? Know what to do? Some of you are renting or you're buying or what have you. But as he says all the time, it's real estate, it's stocks, it's bonds, it's precious metals, and it's having cash somewhere hidden in the house. I'm Joe Messina, your host. More with David Fischer after the break. Don't go far. We are back. Listen to The Real Side on GCN Live. Always a pleasure to have you with me. I really do appreciate the time you guys spend with me. I know how precious time can be, and how quick and how fleeting it can be, if you would, and how quick it can go. And I do appreciate the time you guys spend with us. Let's just get back. I'll try it in English this time. Let's get right back to David Fischer. I always appreciate the information that he imparts on us. We're back at it with David Fischer again. Always enjoy when he's with me. As I love to say, plain simple English about finances. I've learned a lot from him over the years. It has helped me kind of tighten up my wallet, if you would, or strengthen my wallet. And David, always a pleasure to have you with me. Why? First of all, why is this all important? And we talk about globalism a lot on the show, in general, and it seems that when Europe takes a nosedive, we take a nosedive. When Europe's doing well, we seem to do okay too. Should we be that tied in with them?
Well, there's a direct correlation, yes, because we do live in a global society, because the dollar trades globally. That's one reason. All countries have, and this is why tariffs are important, because it affects what you call the gross domestic product. And a I talk for a living here. A gross domestic product is the best way to measure a country's economy. It's the total value of everything that is produced by all the people, whether they're citizens or not, in that country through companies. It doesn't matter, where this is happening, what state or providence. It's all the things that are produced within that country's boundaries. Also, you have to count in what the government is doing, and that's the production of GDP. Now, let's put this in perspective. In 2017, China was the world's largest economy, Joe, for the third year in a row. It produced $23.1 trillion of economic output, according to the World Factbook. The European Union was second, generating $19.9 trillion, and together those countries represented almost 40% of the world's economic output. The United States is number 3. We were number 1 for about 5 years, from 2007 to 2012-ish, 6 years, 2013. The United States is number 3 at $19.4 trillion. When you put these 3 countries together, China and entities, European Union is not a country, and the United States, we represent almost 50% of the world's economy, and no other economy comes close to these 3. The fourth is excuse me. Let me start over. The fourth is India, dropping way down to under 10 trillion. Japan is at 5 trillion, and Germany is at 4 trillion. So, obviously, these 3 entities, the United States, China, and the European Union, is very important because they lead the charge. Well, now this is starting to come full circle why China wants to launch their currency tied to oil, and that can be converted to gold. Now, don't get all shooken up and say, let's learn Mandarin or anything like that. The Chinese yuan is not going to overtake the dollar in the very near future or anything like that. But this is why, since they're the largest economy, why they want to have their currency trade internationally. The euro trades internationally. The United States dollar trades internationally. This is why they want to do it. They have a larger economy. And when the largest economy, last year China grew at 6.7%, we grew at 2.3%. We're trying to get to 3%. We hit a few quarters of it, but we're pulling back. It affects our country. And this is why trade deficits are important, because it helps. When you don't have a trade deficit, it actually does help grow your economy. So this is why President Trump, it's all tied in together. You want to have a growing economy. That's why he lowered taxes, so we could stimulate job growth, company growth, and grow the economy. So now he's doing the other side. Let's take care of tariffs, and let's try and help grow the economy by getting our country's products and services outside of our country on a cheaper way, so that the rest of the country wants to buy our products to lower this trade deficit. So it's all tied in together.
When you talk about trade deficits, and I kind of, I've got my notes in front of me, I kind of jumps the shark a little bit, but, this Canadian thing that's going back and forth with Trudeau and our president and what have you, and our president, again, I love the guy. I wish he would just hang off on the tweets at times, just a little bit, not a whole bunch, but I looked it up and looked into it. In Canada, it's a 270% dairy tax, if you would, or what do they call it? I lost my mind here. I got tax stuck in my head. It's a tariff. It's a 270% tariff on dairy products coming into Canada from the U.S. How is that fair, David? I mean, how does that help us? Or it doesn't, does it?
Well, those just got put in place in reference to the tariffs that we put in place. Do you know what the actual trade deficit is with Canada and the United States?
You know what? I think I do, but I'm going to let you tell me.
Here's what's misleading, and I don't know if President Trump is not getting correct data, but what he is saying is incorrect. I love our president, and I support him in almost everything, but when something is not being said correctly, either because he does not have the proper information in front of him. But I went to our sources, the United States Office of U.S. Trade Representative. You can go there too. It's on the internet. It's easy to be found. There is not a trade deficit with Canada. We have a trade surplus. Here's the numbers. U.S. exports on goods we have a deficit of $17.5 billion with Canada. But when you have to add goods and services, because that's the full picture, not just a piece of the pie. When you add that, we have a surplus of $8.4 billion, because U.S. imports are $341.2 billion, and that's exports, and imports are $332.8 billion. So we have a trade surplus with Canada at $8.4 billion, not a deficit. This is not my opinion. This is not President Trump's opinion, although he holds different what he said. This is our country that reports the figures at the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative. You can go look on the internet for yourself. It's public information. It's just like saying, how much is the country bringing in? How much are we spending? What's the national deficit, national debt? All those are public figures. This is just the same as that. So it's misleading when you only add one side of the equation. Now, I know what President Trump wants to do, and I support him. He wants to make America great. This is why you saw the rhetoric elevate between Canada and the United States, in my belief, is because they're not on the same page. They're not talking about the same apples to apples. They're talking about two different fruits, apples and oranges. When you look at the whole picture, there is no trade deficit with Canada.
Interesting. So you think he's getting just bad information from the people around him?
I think so, because I think Trump. I'm going to give President Trump the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he's being deceptive. I don't think he's lying. I think he's being told what he needs to be told to help make America great. News agencies does this all the time. Fox News does it. So does CNN.
No.
They all do it.
All news sources are true and real. Don't you know that, David?
Okay. This is why I didn't go to a news source. I went to the government that says, here's the numbers. Unfortunately, there's not too many news sources talking about this. So this is a good reason why you and I have this conversation, because, it's alternative news. But, the people are smart. They can go to the internet and type in the U.S. Office of the U.S. Trade Representative and find the numbers out. It's a publicly listed thing. Yeah. So it's unfortunate that the news wants to beat up on President Trump, and there's news that wants to support President Trump when sometimes the facts might not be fully accurate. There's only one side of the story. So but that's why we got to look and verify, trust and verify, as they say.
Yeah, well, yes. We got to go for a quick break here, but when we come back, let's get in a little bit more to, do we see any? Are we seeing any benefits from the tariffs yet? And we're going to talk about the gold market a little bit. What's going on in the gold market? Yeah, things have changed quite a bit since you started with the show, and I want to talk a little bit about that. We'll be back in a second. Always appreciate the man's time with us, and you should too. Think about this. He's always been an honest guy. He's always helped out our listeners, our people. So again, I appreciate the time that you're spending listening to him. I appreciate the time that he's spent putting this information together. Man, I'll tell you what, I love the fact that the left goes crazy every time Trump does a tweet, over what's going on with the. Well, I guess we can't call him. Do we call him Rocket Man anymore? Because he's not doing it, right? Anyway, I'm Joe Messina, your host. This is The Real Side on GCN Live. Don't go far. We'll be back in a few minutes.
What I meant was, if we had a nice bungalow and I came home from work and you were standing by the gate, you came home from work and I was standing by the gate, that's more like it.
It's astounding. Time is fleeting. Madness takes its toll. But listen closely.
Not for very much longer.
I've got to keep control.
Although I never saw this movie. This was Rocky Horror Picture, right? Is that what that was? No, never. I didn't have to see it. I would go by the theaters and I would see what's outside the theater and thought, I don't want to be locked in the theater with those people. Not going to happen. Anyway, I'm Joe Messina, your host. Always a pleasure to have you with me. Let's get back at it because you need to know what to do with the coinage you have in your pocket. We're back with our buddy David Fischer. Always enjoy when he's on the show, and you know, it's kind of some of you think it's a joke, but I'm serious. I mean, he explains finances in plain, simple English. You know, talk about the precious metals market, stocks, and real estate, and what have you. And you have to have a well-rounded understanding of your money, of your assets, if you would, before you can make any decisions. You can't make decisions with blindfold. You can't drive with a blindfold on. You know what I'm saying? And David helps enlighten us in those areas. David, always appreciate the time that you're with. I appreciate your time. I know others do too. That you're with me. You and I have been going back and forth with tariffs for a long time, and again, it's a matter of how you're looking at it and the information you're getting, right? So, are you seeing any benefits or upside? Before you get rolling here, I almost see the tariffs at times with the president. When I see what he's doing, he's almost using them as a bargaining chip to get a fair playing field. What do you think?
Well, I think that's true, and I totally support him. I think the tariffs are needed, especially when we're dealing with China. I'd say, our allies with Canada and Mexico, that's a whole other story. I don't see the effectiveness of it. And the European Monetary Union, there's not a whole lot of effectiveness there. It's more of, a positioning and a bargaining chip, like you said. But China, for years they've been stealing our technology through transfer data technology. I mean, we have to give that up when we want to go create a product in China, and so it's not beneficial to us that they steal our data, use it, replicate it, and call it their own. And they've been doing that for years. So that's why tariffs are going on with China. And will it work? I don't know. I don't think so. There's no data that shows a tariff war actually works economically, where any country benefits. And, we're not actually in a full-blown tariff war as of yet, but it will start next month. And that's the concern. It might affect markets. It might not. I think the markets are not, in my opinion. I'll be surprised if the market has a big hiccup once tariffs go in across the board. I think there's going to be sectors, the steel industry, the aluminum industry, the dairy industry, the soybean industry. Those are industries that are going to be affected. I mean, there was a person today being interviewed on CNBC that was moving forward in a product that was going to create some jobs in America. This is before tariffs were being talked about, and they did the original analysis, and they were moving forward, getting ready to for the production. They stopped, and now that tariffs are being talked about being put in place, they're not going to make any money, and they won't be able to add, any jobs to this. So tariffs are not always a beneficial thing, and according to the World Bank, U.S. tariffs could trigger another financial crisis. That just came out June 6th. So who knows the outcome? I hate to say that in news because that's what you're never supposed to say. We will wait and see, and as the old news adage is, don't say that. But it is kind of time will tell, but history being the teller of time, it shows no benefit to this, but I understand the motivation that President Trump is doing, and I support him in trying to make America great.
Well, we don't. I didn't spy you earlier, but what do you think the North Korean, not the summit, but this whole thing with North Korea, is it having any financial effect? Because I got to tell you, I don't see the Chinese as seeing this as a good thing, because now they may not be that economic engine for North Korea if North Korea gets mainstreamed, right?
Well, the good thing is that President Trump is trying to make those countries in that area step up to the plate, economically, financially, and also negotiating. So he's just trying, in my opinion, I think President Trump is trying to be the catalyst to get this thing under control. I mean, let's look at the alternative. We'd be firing nuclear weapons at each other, if not now, in the near future. I mean, so I love this environment compared to where it was 6-8 months ago. So, my hat's off to President Trump. Did we fix anything? No, not really. Did we create any liability? Possibly, because, as the old adage is, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. the North Koreans have been known to play games. So President Trump, he's just this is his way of negotiating, giving some accolades, and the press doesn't like that because they're saying that he's going to get taken advantage of, and he might. And by his own admittance, they might play a game. But he's the kind of guy that adjusts quickly. That's what wise business people do that are successful. They see the current environment and they adjust. And when the environment changes, they're a chameleon and they have to change their colors and adjust. Yeah. And that's the beauty of this president that a lot of presidents have just not been able to do. So I think there's some benefits there.
Well, but you hit the nail on the head, which I tell people all the time. You can't go in to the person you want to negotiate / talk with and say, oh, by the way, you're a brutal dictator. Everybody hates you. You need to stop killing people. And can we have peace in the region? You know what I mean? You can't do that.
He knows the brutalness. I mean, that's all public information. Everybody in America and most of the people outside of America know how brutal the dictatorship has been in North Korea, and Kim Jong-un and also his predecessor, his dad, and all the fatalities, even family members. I mean, that's all. But you got to move. President Trump's able to set that aside for the bigger picture. Would we rather have millions of people die with nuclear weapons and that be that brutal? He'll be blamed for that. Oh, yeah. So you got to pick your battles, the lesser of two evils. And I think he put out an olive branch to see what's going to happen. Did we solve anything? No. I don't know if we should, do away with war games. And I don't want to call them that, but that's in essence what they are. I think we should. I think that's backing away. We should keep her, as long as he's not pulling troops out until we have a written agreement. I think we're fine.
Right. So let's hit a little bit on the gold market itself. Let's look inside the gold market. What's going on with gold and precious metals right now?
Well, there's a big influx of big money coming into the gold market right now. I saw a change from January till last month. It was pretty much flat. I'm talking about big money now. I mean, we're talking central bank money. We're talking about hedge fund money. We're talking about the sentiments of hedge fund money. So there's it's almost like the light switch turned on. Now you're not seeing that reflected too much in the price, but this is this was what causes price movement, is volume of buying versus volume of betting that it's going to go down, green the market. So there's been a big change in about the last month, and I'm not the only one seeing it. My industry is starting to see it. I'm talk with large purchasers and sellers in my industry called wholesalers, and there is a change in the wind in the gold market. Now, what's causing that is I think people see some economic challenges coming. Central banks see it coming. Our deficit surged to $530 billion in May, according to the Congressional Budget Office. We're not paying our bills, obviously. They're seeing the problems come. Smart money 2 months ago at a conference in New York, 25 billionaires that were more anti-gold, at least 23 out of the 25 were anti-gold for the most of their sentiments when they talk about gold. And most of the time they don't talk about gold, but when they do, it's usually anti. Now they're pro-gold. They're bulls. So big money is saying, get some gold right now because we're going to have some problems as we move forward. So there's a shoring up of this. The demand is increasing. The supply from production side has been in the negative for the last 3 years. So there's no big supplies out there right now. And, all the other peripheral things like the Social Security saying we're going to go bankrupt by 6 years from now, and Medicare saying pretty much the same thing in 8 years. All those things, and higher interest rates to service the debt, and the Treasury's baloney, all those things we've been talking about, that is also in my report called Bubbles Bursting, which will cause the next great deflate. That's all being talked about and coming more to the surface on the inside of gold buying.
Interesting. But you've been saying it for a long time. It's not just all gold. You're very open about the fact that it needs to be gold, and you got about a minute. It needs to be gold, real estate, and all of that. But I don't want to cut you short too. People need to sign up for your newsletter, right?
Well, absolutely. We have a newsletter called Lock Your Doors. Lock your doors to keep honest people honest. There's something getting ready to happen where people want to get into your money. Read my newsletter. You'll learn about it.
I like it.
Things that caused 2007 are now getting the green light to cause another 2007 in the near future. And I think it's going to be again 2019 or 2020.
All right, so you have to head over to landmarkgold.com. That's landmarkgold.com. It's the only way you're going to be able to find out, really what's going on. David's an upright, honest guy. You need to get with him and figure out what to do with your money. I'm Joe Messina, your host. Always a pleasure to have you with me. Have a great rest of the day, and God bless.